All right, 10.4, we're going to be taking a look at measures of central tendency and variation. Central tendency has to do with how things are sort of grouping up in the middle, and variation has to do with how things are spreading out. So there are three measures of central tendency. At least one of them is very familiar to you. The first one, the mean. The mean sometimes is also called the arithmetic mean. It is the average of all the values. Generally, it's found by adding all the values together and dividing by the total number of values. This is what your grade in classes is, right? Somehow you're adding a whole bunch of points together, you're dividing by the number of points possible in the class or on the assignment or whatever, and you find the average that you got in the class or on the assignment, whatever it is you're looking at. But it is not the only way that we can measure central tendency. There are two others. The mean can sometimes be swayed significantly by a very low score, right? You've probably all had it happen, or a very high score potentially as well. So if you're trucking pretty good at a B and then you totally bomb a test and you get like a 34, all of a sudden you no longer have a B, right? It just tanks the whole thing, especially if it's worth a significant number of points. So sometimes it makes more sense to look at a measure of central tendency as the median. The median is the middle value. And it's found by listing all the values in numerical order and looking for the one in the middle. The kicker when you put numbers in order is that sometimes there's one middle value and sometimes there's two numbers that are in the middle. Right? Imagine putting all of your students in a classroom in height order. If you have an odd number of students, there's one person and it is in the very middle of your row of students. That would be your median height. But if you have an even number of students, there are two students in the middle. They might be the same height, or they might vary a little bit. So you take the two middle numbers, in that case, add them together and divide by 2 and find their average. So that's the median. So if you were to imagine taking like a school district and you wanted to know, well, what's the average salary of an employee in the school district? Well, you probably don't want the superintendent's salary in that mix because it's going to make it sound like, or at least you as a teacher, that the average salary might be significantly higher because that number is sort of throwing something off, right? It's adding in something that's significantly higher that's really not what the question is you were asking. And the same would be true if you might want to not consider, the janitor's salary or something like that, right? You might be looking at only a specific type of, contract or something. So that's kind of the idea of median. The next one is mode. Mode is the number or numbers that occur most frequently. So if you can imagine trying to decide shirts, we were going to be deciding purchasing shirts for a group of kids. I don't really want to know what the average kid's height or size is. I really want to know what the most number of kids' size is if I'm trying to find shirts. So we wanted to purchase 2 extra shirts because it was going to be cheaper. That happens sometimes. It's really weird when you purchase things like that. We purchase in bulk. Sometimes it's cheaper to add 2 extra in. Well, the 2 extra that we were added in, we wanted them to be the most likely size that a child would be. Well, most of the sizes we were ordering were mediums and larges. So we ordered 1 extra medium, 1 extra large, 1 additional large. So that it made sense that hopefully if there was an additional child that needed it, it was one of those most likely occurring ones. That's the mode. Okay, so we're going to do one example. These are our numbers that we're going to work with. We're going to find the mean, median, and mode, and we'll pause. Okay, so the mean does what?
You add all the numbers and
Right. It finds the arithmetic average. You add them all together. So you can do one of two things. You can either add them all like this, like where you actually write them down, and show me that you're dividing by 7. Or you can add them, like in your calculator for me, and show me at least the next piece, which is the sum of what's on top. So what did you get on the top? 139. So you need to have either this one or this one. That's the work part I'm talking about. And then when you do the division, what do you get? 19.9. And as we're working with these, we're going to be working with one decimal and stuff. So if you get something that gives you ugly decimals at the end, just round off to one decimal. Okay? Median puts them in order. So we need to put them in numerical order. I usually go smallest to largest, although if you went the other direction, you'd get the same thing. 12, 17, 18, 18, 22, 22, and 30. There are an odd number of values on this one. Which is the middle value? 18, the second 18, right? Yeah. So the median is 18. And then mode is the number that shows up most frequently. And it can have more than one mode. This one has two of them, 18 and 22. So we would actually call this bimodal. But you can have as many modes as there are of things that show up most frequently. If they all have the exact same number of times they show up, then we say it's no mode. So no mode means everything shows up exactly the same number of times. Okay, any questions on the basic operational status of those three? All right.